Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rewind Pod. I'm super excited to have this guest on. This has been a really exciting booking for me. I'm not going to try and hype it up anymore. I'm just going to let him introduce yourself. Sanjeev, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Sanjeev Kohli, Glasgow's premier Jeff Goldblum impersonator, and I also own a chain of dry cleaning concerns. I don't know why Molly's asked me on. I've got nothing to say for myself.
It's, do you know, out of all the intros I think I've had, I think that's probably the most creative one. But aside from obviously being the number one Jeff Goldblum impersonator, which I've never put the two and two together, but I've also never seen the two of you in the same room, so
Well, he's
there
actually
you
over
go.
there, but you
Is
can't.
it?
Yeah,
In the,
Molly, he says hi,
fair
and
enough. Oh, do you
he
know,
loves your wallpaper. It's very, it's good.
thank you. Very, very big fan.
But Jeff, shut up
Um,
now. I'm on now. No, we're recording. Make me a cup of tea.
do you make a good cuppa? Is it?
No,
That's right.
it's just to make him think he's more talented than he is. To be fair, the guy is one of the most stylish men in the world, and he's also a jazz pianist and a very good actor, and just a all-round good dude. So I aspire to Jeff, but he's
Aspires
a
chef.
tight cup of tea.
Well, we can't all be perfect, can
Exactly.
we?
That's
So
why you
aside
can
from
do it.
quite right, quite right. He has to learn somewhere.
Exactly.
Aside from all that incredible introduction, we all know you as an actor that has graced our screens from many different roles.
Disgrace your screens.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, but totally
You'll
fine.
notice I did that West of Scotland thing where if
Yep,
you try to give me a compliment, I repackage it as an insult. So a
yep,
friend of
yep.
mine got this great game where, and she's very good at it. You can say anything to her and get creative with it, and she'll somehow turn it into a way of you telling her that she's fat. It's fantastic.
Fair enough.
It is
Great game.
fantastic.
Great game.
Like you say, okay, fine. It's a lovely day today. How wasn't it a lovely day yesterday because my enormous arse caused an eclipse of the sun? That sort of thing, right? And she's very good at it, and it's a very Scottish thing. Try and compliment a Scottish person, you'll probably get stabbed.
Absolutely, but at least I think that I always remember there was a stat ages ago. It was about us being the most stabby capital of Europe, but also the nicest capital of
Yeah,
Europe.
yeah,
So it's like we'll be
yeah,
nice to you, but
yeah. Aye, but
we'll
the
still be
minute
horrible to
you
the
we
bosses.
think that you're aye, well, we'll get tasty if we need to. But
Absolutely,
don't
quite
give us
right.
the need to get tasty. You can see I've got a knife. You can see I'm carrying. So just be nice to me.
Well,
And also,
as you
the
said,
only city with a C bomb is a compliment, right? So this all feeds
true,
into the same kind of West of Scotland, Glasgow vibe, I feel,
true.
which is what makes us unique.
Absolutely. Well, I can't even claim to that because I'm not from Glasgow originally. I'm from Dundee originally,
You're from
so I
Dundee?
can't. I'm
Okay.
from Dundee, so
You don't
I grew
sound like
up.
you're from Dundee.
I know I've been here for a long
Mhm.
time. So I
But
mean,
Dundee and Glasgow are very simpatico.
very,
If you look at voting patterns and stuff, Glasgow and Dundee very much. And
very
I've got a lot of
industrial.
time for Dundee, a lot of
Yeah,
time for Dundee. Obviously, it's
it's.
had a bit of a makeover recently, but my daughter went to Dundee Uni, and so we were kind of pinging up and down quite a lot. And and my dad, weirdly, the reason I'm in Scotland at all is that my dad got a place at Teacher Training College in Dundee. So in the 70s, my dad was in Dundee cutting about. Funnily enough, we were living in London at the time. I was like 3 years old, so I don't remember this. But my dad, my brother apparently asked my dad, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to Blackness." And so I think my brother thought my dad was Darth Vader or something. So, who lives in a place called Blackness? Why is there a place called Blackness at all?
Buckness.
Why does that exist? So I've got a lot of time for Dundee.
Amazing, fantastic. And I mean, I've always known you to. I think again, obviously with the parts and things that you play,
Mm.
you're rooted in Glasgow
Yeah,
history
yeah, yeah,
for me
100%.
anyway. So for me, it's like I kind of because I didn't grow up with the sort of I don't know Glaswegianism type
Hmm.
thing. For me, it's like it's quite a comforting thing to watch to know that this is it's kind of like home a little bit. It's like this sort of thing. So for me, like obviously watching people like yourself, like really proper Scottish rooted actors, getting their break on TV and things and actually hearing Scottish accents, for me is like I
I'll
talk
tell you,
about this all the
I
time.
was very lucky because how old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
I'm 32.
Right, so you won't remember chewing the fat when it went out, but you probably, do
A
you know
little
what I mean?
bit. Little bit, a
We've
little
been
bit.
trips since.
Yeah.
But the beauty of Chewing the Fat was, and I got onto Chewing the Fat at ground level because I was, not everyone knows this, but it was originally uh, a Radio Scotland sketch show back in
Okay.
90, back in '97 when you were three.
Three.
Three? Yeah. Oh, my maths is good. I've got that. Probably should be. So at that time, I produced it. Ford and Greg wrote and performed it. And it wasn't the Ouija Scottish sketch show that became the telly sketch show. It was
Mhm.
more international than that. A lot more American influences, a lot more American parodies.
Mhm.
Like Ford's a huge Frank Sinatra fan, and Greg's a massive Elvis and Beach
Mhm.
Boys fan. So a lot of American influences, American TV shows. By the time it got onto the telly, it got distilled into this very Scottish sketch show, which I think Scotland needed at the time, because it was justifying the way we spoke. We've always been embarrassed
Mhm.
about
Mhm.
speaking in the Scottish vernacular.
Mhm.
And an example of that is there's a sketch called Sport Socks, which I wrote, which I don't know if you know it,
Mhm.
but it's about basically Greg. For anyone that doesn't know, Greg goes to get a bank loan for his business venture, which is selling sports socks on Argyle Street, right? So one of the lines in it is Ford, who's this very middle class bank manager. So he's asking about utilities and all that sort of thing. He says, and then what have you got in place for security? And Greg's, who's playing this kind of quite neddy, gadgy guy, says, "Oh, my pal Shank, she's going to keep the edgy for the pulse and that." No. And even just the expression keeping the edgy was something that you won't know if you grew up in Dundee, because I think it's quite a West of Scotland thing.
Mhm.
But keeping the edgy meant keeping the lookout. It was
Mhm.
something we said in the playground, right? Primary one, primary two,
Yeah.
whatever. I'd never seen it written down. 100% slang. So me actually even typing out the words keeping the edgy, I'm assuming that's how you spell it. I've never seen it. And then the very fact that Greg used that expression in a national and then a show that actually got traction down south as well.
Mhm.
So they're hearing this expression, keep the edge in it. It was almost like it was justifying the way we speak. So it's
Mhm.
quite important. You're
Mhm.
saying that you find it comforting. It's more
Mhm.
than comforting, it's actually validating.
100%.
There's more than just comforting, it's actually validating, because for years we've been told, for as long as I can remember, and I've got a weird perspective on being Scottish because I'm a brown boy who has Indian parents who actually landed in London, which is where I was born. So I was 3 years old before I came to Scotland. So I was kind of learning Scottish culture. It
Mhm.
was a very, very steep learning curve for me. I didn't know what a jam piece was. I didn't know what Jeanette Cranky was. I didn't know what the Corries were. I didn't know Flower of Scotland, didn't know any of this stuff. Didn't know about sectarians' football loyalties, and got sent to a fee-paying Catholic school. That was an eye-opener. I'm learning all this stuff, but part of that was that, oh, you can't speak in Scottish vernacular,
Mhm.
that's not right. That's common. That's this. That's that. That's not valid.
Mhm.
So things like Chewing the Fat were a validating experience, but also like even just now, you look at YouTube and you're seeing Scottish people being funny in their own voice,
Mhm.
and people in America, people in wherever, Colombia, laughing at Scottish
Yeah.
people, not laughing, sorry, laughing
At
with
them.
Scottish people,
Yeah.
not at them,
Yeah.
because we're funny people. We just
We are.
are. And
It's like you said, it is that self-depreciating humor that we do have, and I think like you're right. We have so many new avenues now to be able to release that. Like you said, I have the opposite. I mean, I've worked for a lot of English companies and I've worked down in London and things, and I feel like you almost kind of have to hide your Scottishness quite a lot because, well, when you talk, and my proper accent is a lot thicker than this, and when you talk in an accent, even your telephone voice, the one that your mum used to put on all the time, and
100%, yeah.
they would go, I don't understand you, or they think it would be funny, or it just so like you're saying, like it does become validating because they might not know what they're laughing at or with because they just think it's funny. But for us, it's like it's almost like our kind of secret language that's
Well,
out there on a.
that's very interesting. You make a good point there. That's the thing about the truth,
Mhm.
is that like I might watch something like, for example, The Wire is a show that's made in Baltimore, right? For
Mhm.
2 hours, I didn't know what they were saying, but I found it very entertaining because it felt true.
Mhm.
It's not my truth, but it smells true. It smells authentic.
Mhm.
And you're right. If people can, like, another example of that is I'm loving the moment that Ireland's having just now. There's lots of brilliant Irish comedy be it Dairy Girls, be it Young Offenders,
Yeah.
be it a show like Bad Sisters,
Mm-hmm.
which
Oh,
Sharon
amazing.
Horgan, who's a genius, wrote and starred in. And they have this expression in it. She's out, you're a wagon. You're a wagon. I don't know what that means, but it made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, a wagon? Why is that an insult? I don't care. It's funny.
It's
So
funny.
that's not my truth, but you know it's true
Mm-hmm.
because it feels true and it smells true. And that's really important in drama and I think especially comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Just say what would make you laugh, and then have the confidence to know that it would be funny out with your living room or out with your bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's the
Absolutely.
thing. We've been taught not to have that confidence. We've been
Mm-hmm.
taught to do the telephone voice, do the thing that's acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels to me that that ocean liner is creaking and turning, and
Mm-hmm.
that being unashamedly Scottish. And you can when you're on YouTube or TikTok because there's no gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm 55, so I'm of a generation that if I'm wanting something to be seen publicly, it's been through three producers or whatever editors,
Yeah.
and at each stage, the edge comes off, the edge comes off, the shine comes
Diluted. Yeah.
diluted. You know, your generation, granddad here, but it's true. Your generation can just cut straight through. I mean, obviously, the disadvantage of making stuff for online is that it's a big old marketplace, and
Yeah.
you know there's a lot of competitors, whatever. But the plus of that is that you can just be your true authentic self.
And yeah.
You know?
We almost kind of have the opposite of I could speak all day about this. It's something that I absolutely just love. But you know, like in American schools, they're always taught to be patriotic. They're always given that kind of outwardly view of, you know, you represent your country, you're proud to be an American. Whereas in Scotland, it's kind of that no, 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 you have to dilute it, you have to dull it, you have to. It's almost like a secret. You should be ashamed of it, you know. And for me, then obviously watching what we've just had, the Scotland at the World Cup, and watching that then being not just accepted but embraced. And you know, I sometimes I roll my eyes when you hear American people say that their great grandpappy or whatever came from Scotland, but at the end of the day you just go, "Joe, come on in." Like,
Yeah,
it's we
yeah,
don't take it seriously, so why should anybody else?
yeah, yeah. And do you know what? That might be their way into Scottish culture, but then when they get here, we'll show them real Scottish culture.
Absolutely.
I mean, I always said this
Absolutely.
about Scotland, right? When you think about the size of Scotland and the population of Scotland, right? We punch big, we punch, we kick high.
Hmm.
Okay, say you went to rural Japan, for example, and you said Scotland, right? They could name five things about Scotland.
Hmm.
Now, those things might be whiskey, golf, rain, mist, playing Dalglish. I don't care. It's five, four things, and I could say about Bolivia.
True.
I mean,
Hmm.
I think we lose sight of that. But like you say, that's not the version of Scotland we know.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Come for the castles and the mist and the bagpipes, but stay for the humour, stay for the
Hmm.
self-deprecation. You
Hmm.
know, if you're lucky, someone might call you a cunt. Um,
That means they like you.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
we do need to hold on to that. And I know you're saying, okay, it's cheesy that, you know, wow, you have a castle. Well, not really. I live in a wimpy semi, but you know, believe that if you want.
Yeah.
But we do need to realise that we've got a lot going for us, and we've always been taught to somehow ignore that. I don't know.
Yeah. So what is that like for you then? I mean, obviously you said that you didn't come here until you were three. I didn't actually know that about you. I've obviously done my research and various other things, but I didn't know that about you. So you obviously then had to adapt into that kind of. I suppose at three, yeah, it is a new world, but it's different at three than it would be at 13. So it's a different kind of experience. But what is it then like coming here at three to then not even what 20 years later becoming so ingrained in Scottish culture and part of our history, and you know you're like a landmark to us, you know, it's like no, we like this is funny, you know, you are have taken on so many iconic characters throughout. No, I'm not just talking about still game because that's fantastic, great, but there's more to you than that. So I personally quite like the rig, you know, that's something
Hmm.
that I quite like, you know, things that that to me is like crazy that I just didn't know it. But I suppose my point that I'm trying to get to is we do kind of take everyone and say like, okay, this is what you make of it. If you want to make a home here, if this is what it is. I mean, maybe I'm short sighted because I'm not.
Do you
I,
know what? All the things you've just said are the things I want to believe.
I know.
And we know we're living in very
Yeah.
interesting times.
Yeah.
So where do you live?
So I'm just past Paisley.
Right. Okay.
Hopefully.
My watch has just asked if we're up. Jeff, biscuits. Um, did you have any of that saltire nonsense going on in Paisley?
A little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
so where I stay, not far from here, I was driving to go and see my aunt who lives in Somerston, and it was the saltires went up overnight. I'm like, what? And then you find out it's some right wing organisation, very well funded right wing organisation, has decided to try and reclaim the saltire as some kind of beacon of right wing Scottish nationalism. And I think it's backfired because I think they didn't realise it. It's not the St George's Cross. This is a very different beast. And what's been lovely about what's been happening in the States and Boston and Miami and all that is that the saltire is a symbol of togetherness and friendliness and come away in and share my pint, And, I've been really depressed about the right wing presence in Scotland recently. Now, you look at it, you kind of look at it at a granular level and you realise it's not Scottish people that are behind this. They're not funding it, but they're the ones that are pressing the buttons. And a depressing number of Scottish people are buying this narrative. And I just try and double down on characters like Navid, who are celebrating what we have in common. Because that's the whole point. Yes, Navid is Muslim, yes, Navid is Asian, yes, Navid is brown. But it's only part of who he is.
Yep.
He's sarcastic, he's flawed, his wife runs his life and his business. And
he's just a guy.
He's just a guy.
Just a guy.
And that was the strength of Ford and Greg's writing, because they write every single word of Still Game. And the authenticity that I could bring to the character, to the point where 5-year-olds love Navid, even though he's fictional. But my thing is that, right, I'm really, really glad that you like this brown guy, because God knows there's people now telling you not to like the brown guys.
Yeah.
So I just try and hold on to that, because it does feel sometimes like the rug's being pulled from underneath us.
Yeah, of course.
I believed about Scotland, that especially Glasgow is a very welcoming place. My dad said to me, I asked him not that long ago, actually, because he passed away a couple of years ago. He got to 90.
Sorry.
And I asked him, as part of a documentary that I was making called I Belong to Glasgow, I said, when did you feel welcome in Glasgow? Because he was in his mid-30s when he came to Glasgow. And I said, and when did you feel welcome in Glasgow? And he said, about 20 minutes after I got here. He said, I didn't fully understand what they were saying to me, but if I felt welcomed. So I hold on to that. Yeah. And I don't think I hope I'm not being naive to believe that that's still the case.
I think you totally understand, and I agree with you. That's what I said. I do wonder if my own viewpoint is naive, to the sense that I'm not immune to knowing what goes on, because it's there in front of you. It's incredibly hard. I mean, I drive past one of my clients. I drive past every day, and I have to go down like Govan Road, and it's full of the United Kingdom flag, and constantly full of it. And sometimes I kind of feel a little bit icky. I don't know, there's probably a better word for that, but you feel a little bit kind of disgusted, because I know that that's a prevalent area that is full of people that have decided to settle here, and now you're making them feel uncomfortable intentionally. And again, I don't know if it is because I grew up incredibly sheltered, and I grew up with people who just were generally not racist. I just grew up with a group of people that were all just the same. I had friends of various different. My background myself is not totally Scottish, so we grew up very just. What, sorry?
What is your background then?
So I'm kind of Spanish, Iberian kind of type,
oh, wow.
And then I've got a Middle East as well. So it's a whole mix. I will probably cut this because I don't keep it in, because the last time I kept it in, I got so much hate for it. So I cut it quite a lot. But because again, just following that, because I can kind of pass quite white, so I can kind of get away with it. I've been felt quite naive to the whole thing. But it's very hard when you, like I said, you drive down a street like that to then think about, during COVID, Black Lives Matter, we had protests, we were one, think about, the Kenmure Street, we were a whole community of people. So you're right, it's hard to swallow seeing flags to then going, but this is who we are. Like we don't stand for this shit. Like
what I will say is, when there were right wing demos in Argyle Street, they were outnumbered 10-1, weren't they, by the anti-racists?
Yeah.
So I'm going to hang on to that,
It was lovely.
It was lovely. But it is depressing. I mean, this actually happened the weekend. I was at a festival, and there's a really nice guy came up, and bless him, he was drunk. He was trying to say to me though, he tried to talk to me about still gaming Navid and impact he'd made, and he wasn't quite articulating it, but I think he's also
Yeah,
embarrassed to try and find the right words to say to me
yeah,
in case he tripped up. Bless his heart, he was trying to say the right thing, and I said, mate, 100%, I know what you're saying, and we're chatting. He was there with his other significant other, maybe wife, I don't know. And then later on, she came to me and said, "I hope he wasn't annoying you." I said, "No, not at all. He was. I really liked what you had to say about the situation we're in just now." And then she said, "I know because they're coming here and they're raping our women." I'm like, "So what?" I just had to walk away. I said, "I'm going to the toilet." I, I, I was at a festival. I thought I can't even begin. Oh, I couldn't even. I just had to walk away. Because I 100% thought that she was simpatico with him, and she said that line. They're like, "You've just repeated what Tommy Robinson says. You have been played. You are," and it was and there we were at this lovely festival, and it just kind of brought it back home that we can't be complacent about this stuff. I'm
okay,
hoping it is a thing that will a cloud that will pass.
yeah, yeah,
But having said that, sometimes I feel the genie's out of the bottle. These people are being empowered. The guys with the balaclavas going to the parliament, the guys with the balaclavas going to just showing up outside the cathedral. Why, I don't know. But they are being empowered. Social networking has brought these people together. We can't be complacent, but we have to also, I think, show faith that there are enough people right-minding, not right-wing thinking, but right-minded
yeah,
individuals
yeah.
in Scotland that will stand against and stand up to this stuff.
We hope. We definitely hope.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. Sometimes it does feel like a dying battle. I think, obviously, I just said what I've just cut a minute ago, but for me, I struggle with the total just jarring aspect of it. Like you said, like that total 180 flip of, sorry, you've just, are you, and sometimes I do wonder, like, for the longest time I thought the whole Tommy Robinson thing was like a social experiment. I really genuinely did. Like, I genuinely did, and I was like, there's no way on earth, there is no way on earth that this can be, oh no, actually he's real, he actually means this.
And then you're on Facebook, and I don't know how you use your Facebook, but
Not what much, to be perfectly
well,
honest.
there's people on Facebook that I don't really know them, but they somehow have Facebook friends, and they'll say stuff. I'm like, are you for fucking real?
Absolutely.
And that's depressing.
Yeah.
And I just have to quietly unfriend them because I cannot. I could try and debate them, but I don't know. Mm.
It's like arguing with an idiot.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
It's like
never
sometimes
gonna happen.
you show someone a green apple and they say it's red, and you're like, well, I can't possibly argue with you then. If you honestly think that Charlie Kirk is someone that needs to be sanctified, I don't know where to start with you. I don't have equipment to deal with you.
My line with that is always say is I don't have enough crayons to just draw that one out for you. Like, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough crayons. Like, I just don't. Go crunch something else. But with that, like, obviously you've been in the comedy world for the whole career that I've known you in. So obviously you've
Mhm.
had a career prior to that. But comedy it can become quite dark, and it can also be, like a comic relief for a lot of
Yeah.
things. I
And one,
think,
one of the points of comedy is to reframe things that are unpalatable.
yeah,
That's why, I mean, pre the internet, pre social networking, it used to be a case of if something horrible happened in the world, the next day there was someone on the playground that made a joke about it. And then you get that thing of too soon. Well, actually, it's never too soon because that's one of the points of comedy is to reframe something to make it palatable. But also, comedy can be a teaching tool. Like, you can, like, for example, I don't know if do you know the show Goodness Gracious Me, the all Asian sketch show?
I've heard of it. I've never watched it though. I have heard of it.
So it's a show that I used to write for.
Right.
And it
Okay.
was funny because I'd write for Tune the Fat and Goodness Gracious Me in the same day sometimes. So I'm doing all my Ouija material and all my Asian material. And the thing about so I wrote a sketch. It was actually the first sketch that went out on the Goodness Gracious Me TV show. Because again, like Tune the Fat had been a radio show that became a TV show. So it started getting out on the telly, I want to say 99, round about 98, I think. And the very first sketch on the TV show was one that I'd written. And it was about a white guy called Jonathan that goes to work in an office in New Delhi and no one can say his name right. So they're calling him Jammu and Kashmir, Jagunnath. Uh, and he says, no, it's Jonathan. Jagannath. Jonathan. Strawberry jam. Jonathan. And then eventually say, oh, you white people with your complicated names, you troublemakers won't get far in this firm. And then he says, fine, my name is Sivaramakrishnan. And that's the punchline, right? It was quite a simple kind of role reversal joke,
Yeah.
right? And it was hopefully genuinely funny, but you would laugh at it and think, oh, yeah, maybe I've been guilty of that. And you can definitely teach people with comedy if, you can make a sort of political with a small p point with comedy. And I've had the chance to do that with the show like Goodness Gracious Me, which was talking, not exclusively about race politics, but it was something we could go to.
Yeah.
The most famous Goodness Gracious Me sketch, which I wish I'd written because it's genius, is Going for an English, and it's about a bunch of Indian people in India going for an English meal, and it's a complete flip of people here
Yeah.
going to Indian and racially patronizing the waiters and this and that. And so many people have said to me, "Oh yeah, I've had to kind of think about my behaviour when I've laughed at the sketch and I thought, oh, was that me?" So comedy's useful in that way, and also, like I say, to reframe things that are maybe unpalatable. There will be a way that we can talk about Tommy Robinson in a comedic way once we stop being angry about it. There will be a way of doing it. I went to see Stuart Lee the other night, genius stand-up, who I love, and he's got a very clever way of looking at not just sort of out and out street racism, but also your right wing commentators, your spectator columnists, but also he's particularly onto the Netflix comedians that are telling it like it is, so they would say $4 million and just and the likes of Nigel Farage who are just saying untruths because they know that they can, because they know that it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It'll have been around the world twice before anyone can disprove it.
Yeah.
So the likes of Nigel Farage can say, I heard they eat swans. It's been around the world twice before. You say, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah, comedy can be used in that way. But, society has become so compartmentalized now. It's like, am I just preaching to the choir here? I could say it to you and you'd get it. I need to say it to that lassie that I met at the festival.
Yeah.
And is she going to buy that? Am I going to convince her anyway? I do wonder sometimes.
No, absolutely. I know, like we've just said that about, can you convince her? I don't even want to say it's an idiot because even though I do believe the views that they have are completely idiotic, but I do have this theory that anyone who has researched a politician or a party member and they truly deeply believe, not just, oh, my dad voted for them, so therefore I'm voting for them, if they truly, truly deeply believe in the heart of the policies and that's what they want, then they have every right to vote for it. I do believe in that kind of, even though it's not something that I would ever lend my vote to, ever. But in the same kind of way, it feels like it becomes less of a, are you voting for a political party or are you just now a member of a cult? Like it becomes we're all just having this same thought process. Because I do really struggle with the vote of, well, my dad voted them and his dad voted for that, so therefore I must vote for it. Well, no, because you're not the same person, you don't live in the same time, you're not even, for me, I take voting very seriously because women, it didn't come right to me by birth. It wasn't something that I
And it
ever.
wasn't even that long ago that women couldn't
No,
vote. You know what I mean?
not at all, not at all. So it gets me really angry, and I try really really hard to sometimes sit on my hands because you can become quite aggressive when you're saying, well, why are you not voting? because it wasn't given to you by right. And I get really passionate about it, and then I sit in my hands and realise that because you are of a certain demographic, you're probably then seen as aggressive. So then you probably just need to kind of tone it down. But with that, like you're saying about different ways to write through comedy to get people to get the point. I think there's a lot of comedians that have done it somewhat successfully, and there's some points that have landed that whether or not they've made a difference to the change and how it feels, it definitely lands in a certain way. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that because it's almost like when you look at someone like Bill Hicks,
Mm-hmm.
who is probably the best sort of satirical stand-up, he was actually a soothsayer. He was actually getting to the truth in a way the politicians can't. And I look at people like James O'Brien, who the LBC presenter, or Mehdi Hussein, Mehdi Hassan, sorry, who they have this crystal clear way of articulating stuff that I can't. Like, apparently, Nigel Farage is running scared from James O'Brien because 9 years ago, O'Brien obliterated him, absolutely obliterated him, because he has this way of being able just to have all the facts to hand. He's got a brilliant hard drive, and he has a brilliant way of, yeah, you're saying that, but you said that. But you're saying that now, but you said that. And just with facts, absolutely annihilating him. And comedians, someone like Bill Hicks, he talked so articulately and pointedly about when America went into the first Iraq War in '91. And he has this brilliant routine about, we know what weapons you used. We got the receipts, because
I've seen that.
you
Yeah.
know, and that was like, you're thinking, this is beyond comedy now. It's still funny, but you are making points in a way that politicians can't, because they are hamstrung by, the certain things. They can't go to certain places. I was watching. I don't know when this is going to go out, but I was watching the World Cup final last night, and I was watching the Spanish players getting their medals from Infantino and Trump, and I'm thinking to myself, if I was a Spanish player and I didn't shake Trump's hand, which I would never want to do, is that gonna? They're all saying that Lamine Yamal didn't do it. He's found a way of dodging it, and it's like, but you are hamstrung as someone in that position, because the minute you don't do it, then you're going to get piled on.
Absolutely.
You know?
Was it Colin Kaepernick that didn't take the knee at
Yes.
the yeah? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was definitely him, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That didn't take the knee, and that obviously became a national, thing for more athletes to do. Whether it crossed across the pond, I've definitely seen some people do it over here. Whether it's been something whether they're not singing their national anthem
Yeah.
or whatever. But why does that have to be, like, you don't, just because you're born in a country and belong to it doesn't necessarily mean to say that you have to,
Yeah.
bleed red, white, and blue. You don't have to do it. It's
No.
not something that you have to do. So I totally commended them for doing it. Again, I watched it last night myself, and
100%.
yeah,
Um,
it's
I was trying to put myself in their position. Like, I'm not
yeah,
going to shake Trump's hand, but then if I
no.
didn't, what would be the repercussions for me?
Hmm.
Uh, um,
Front page of People magazine with a disgrace across it.
yeah, yeah. And you sometimes just have a wee, when you step off the carousel and realize where we've come as a society, where social networking has brought us. And the argument used to be, how did Nazi Germany happen? Well, the fact is, it feels like Berlin in 1937 now, when people can, that poor bastard in the Gorbals, the Asian dude that was filming a right wing demo and was in the swing park with his kids. And they filmed him and called him a paedophile, and Tommy Robinson retweeted it. And you think to yourself, this feels like Nazi Germany now, with all
Yeah.
the beginnings of it.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. You talked about cult before. It's very easy to build the cult by just telling people what they want or need to hear. I think, yeah, you're not, you're on the breadline, and it's their fault, and people are looking for scapegoats. It's human nature. So and you can do it with a brand of untruth that sounds plausible. And someone like Nigel Farage is very good at what he does. He is charismatic. He's a very good public speaker. So was Adolf Hitler. I mean, you can't deny that he's charismatic. You can't. I mean, what he's talking is fucking lies, but
Yeah.
he's charismatic. And he has a brilliant way of deflecting. He's very good at it. That arsehole woman, the fucking mayoral, the reform mayoral candidate, she's very good at it as well. The minute you say something she doesn't agree with, she says that, well, you're part of the political elite.
Yeah.
And then, where the
How
fuck?
can you deny that? How can you?
Yeah, yeah. They've got a very tried and tested playbook, which is the Donald Trump playbook, which is if I don't like what you're saying, then NBC are corrupt and CNN are corrupt. And it's
Yeah.
frustrating because debate is finished now. Debate is done.
Oh yeah. The true heart of politics, I think, is completely just left us, and I love politics to the point like I love politics for the sense of being able to express an opinion and like the sort of mechanics of it. I've always loved it. For me, I've struggled with the like you said, the debate is gone. There's no I remember even going back to 2014 where we were talking about independence referendum. Okay, there was a lot of things in that I didn't enjoy, but you still had politicians still talking and treating each other with a little tiny bit of respect, a tiny bit. It wasn't, the same way as it was in the golden years, but it was, you could have a laugh, you could have a joke, you could go, even just look at Obama politics back then, standing across the stage with Mitt Romney having a bit of a, tete-a-tete, you could have a laugh. Whereas now it's just down to, oh, you're a dick, you're a dick, and you're a dick, and if you don't agree with me, then you're wrong. And I don't know if the parallels in this, and I'm probably jumping like miles and light years ahead, but someone that I know, she's a broadcaster. She's just released, or she's just about to release, a film. It's called The Narcissist Playbook, and it's talking about the parallels of like narcissism, and it's like the smear campaign. Like you said, if you don't believe it, then you're part of a movement, and that's the type of things that narcissists do. They kind of
Yeah.
collect a smear campaign already set there, so that the minute you disagree with
Blame
it,
displacement at all times.
absolutely. And I kind of do wonder, I'm not saying all politicians are narcissists, that's not what I'm saying, but there's a level of narcissism involved in the campaign of the, well, if you don't believe me, then you're wrong. And I do always kind of wonder, is there, I mean, I certainly couldn't be a politician. I just wouldn't ever want to do that, but there must be a certain level of personality trait potentially that makes you want to go into something like that.
Look, I've always thought if I wanted to make a difference, I would do the Bob Geldof thing, which is just avoid party politics. Because
Yeah.
you're right. I think to get to the level of front bench or even opposition front bench, what you have to go through to get there, my God, your skin must be thick. And to have that level of brass neck maybe does need that level of narcissism, possibly. Because if you're a nice person that wants to make a difference and you go through politics, how can you possibly, you know?
Play the game.
Especially now. I was very lucky. I got to interview Ben Elton because he was plugging his book, and I got to interview him. And I've loved Ben Elton for years. And Mrs. Thatch. He always talk about Mrs. Thatch. And I asked him about that, and he said the thing about Mrs. Thatcher was that I didn't agree with any of her politics, but I respected her as a human being because she believed what she said and she could back it up with facts. Okay, her take on the facts. And then I look at Boris Johnson, who just told lies and just said to people what they needed to hear at the time, which again is from the Trump playbook. I will tell the Rust Belt what they need to hear. I will tell the car factories what they need to hear at the time, and then completely go back on it. At least Thatcher was consistent in her whatever she did, right? And obviously, you mentioned Thatcher's name in Scotland. It's
A good
funny.
one to say.
So it's funny because we've been in our house. We've been kind of doing a bit of a rejig of the garage, and we found all these old photos and stuff. And my missus found some poll tax notices from when she was 19.
My
And we're
God.
like just reliving the fact that were they really expecting people to pay that? People on the breadline already? Were we just an experiment for the Tories? But Ben Elton made that distinction between someone like Thatcher and someone like Johnson. And you're talking about the golden age of politics when it could be debate. And yeah, it's weird to think we didn't know we had it so good at the time, did we?
I know you kind of miss it. It's
100% where
nostalgic.
we are now. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I totally. I mean, I miss. I was.
I'm nostalgic about Michael Portillo. That's
Yeah.
what it's got.
Before oh, he's the guy that does the trains and stuff now, isn't
Yeah, and
it?
he's
Was that
actually
right?
doing that way where he's actually quite a nice fella.
Yeah.
He wears Sam in big trousers. And politically, I don't agree with him, but he's actually quite.
There's actually a theory about how you can spot apparently a posh person in the wild, and it's either red or salmon pink trousers apparently. So
Yeah, and
it's
it's
a good one.
they tend to tie jumpers around their neck for no readily apparent reason.
No reason. But with that in mind, I mean, I knew that I didn't really want to start this whole conversation with comedy and talking about, everything like that. I love the way that this conversation is like, because this is kind of the kind of gritty thing that I quite enjoy. But we're talking about politics, and for me, like, I was kind of thinking about, are they being truthful, or are they playing a character? Is this a front with them? There's some politicians that I look at and I think, no, you're actually who you set out to be. And there's some that I think is a caricature of himself, as just a character that they're playing. But I'm going to try and make that into a segue of, out of your whole career and characters that you have played, what's the one that you feel like you've resonated the most with it in terms of, right, okay, I've done this one so much justice, and this is the one that I'm quite tied to, and I love the message that they were able to portray.
It probably would have to be Navid because I'm playing my dad. I mean, I'm playing the version of my dad.
Right, okay.
When Ford and Greg first approached me to play Navid, they said to me, "Listen, you do still have to audition for this, but we want you to play this Navid character." And Greg said to me, "It's funny when you impersonate your dad." So if you imagine a less Ouija version of Navid with a turban, pretty
Okay.
much my dad. I physicalize him like my dad, the way he kind of
Yeah.
leans his back, and little things like when we did the Hyperdales episode, that Michael, the director, said, "Right, just walk about. Imagine what would Navid do in Hyperdales." And so I walked, and I put my hands behind my back, and I didn't even know I did it. Walking like my dad used to, like Prince Philip's inspecting the troops. Just flicked a box. And I kind of didn't know I'd done it. And then I watched it back and my blood ran cold because that is exactly what my dad did. When Greg wrote a very authentic character and I could bring my authenticity in, I think that's the reason Navid feels so real, is I was channeling someone real, that person being my dad. So yeah, to the point where, and this is just a true story, the way it worked with Still Game was we'd take 6 weeks.
Oh, you're frozen again. Damn it. I'm so sorry. Am I getting back?
I don't know whether it's because it's this time of day when people are all going online.
I don't know
Right,
if any
you're
of this is
trying
even
to
helping,
connect.
but I'll try and.
And you're back now. You're
So
back now.
back.
You're back
I've
now.
literally just turned everything around me off the Wi-Fi just to see if that's going to
All
work.
right. Well,
Hopefully.
hopefully, if it, then
I
maybe
do apologise, honestly.
don't be silly. It's not your fault. So to the point where the way that Still Game works is that we take 6 weeks to make 6 episodes, and
Okay.
then the first chance that we get to see the show is there's a rough assembly of the shows, nearly half an hour, and then we show it in front of an audience to record the audience laughter, because the audience laughter that you hear going out is genuine, because
Right,
that's
okay.
actually. Oh yeah, back in the 70s it wasn't, but there was this whole thing where the laughter, you can't just invent laughter, it has to be genuine.
Genuine.
This whole BBC producer guidelines thing. Anyway, what it meant was that the first chance that we got to see the show were these rough assemblies. So we would take our families, and there was, I don't know how they got the audience, whether it was like a website thing or a fan site, whatever, and we would hire a cinema, be at the Odeon in town or Braehead, whatever, and it'd be all mic'd up, and then we'd sit and for the first time watch it with our families. Great. So we're excited because we filmed everything out of sequence. So we're going to watch the actual episodes as they were meant to be watched. So, and at the start of it, Ford and Greg would come out and say thanks to everyone and say, "Oh, and Jane McCarry's in, who plays Isa. Jane, where are you?" And Jane would stand up and take a bow. And Gav Mitchell, that plays Bobby's in. And Mark Cox, that plays Tam's in, stand up and take a bow. And Sanj is in, who plays Navid. Where are you, Sanj? And I got my dad to stand up and take a bow. And he loved it. He loved it. Right? So yeah, in terms of authenticity, it's always going to be Navid, I think. You
It's
know,
brilliant.
I mean, I've been lucky. I played a sort of a range of characters, all Asian, by the way. I don't have the range to play other ethnicities. Uh, that would be probably be the one I would say.
So with that then, is there a character that you would like to play? Like we were just saying about, the kind of flipping of, different narratives, different stereotypes kind of thing. Is there a character that you would like to play in the future that,
100%.
could...
100%. So there's a few, right? So I'd love to play a hard man because I'm soft
Okay.
as shite. I'm as soft as diarrhea, honestly. I am just raw. I've never been in a fight in my life. Mainly because I know how to avoid them, but also because I don't know, wouldn't know what to do. So I'd love to play a hard man just to give it a go,
Yeah.
just to see if I could get away
Yeah.
with it. But also, I grew up in. I'm a youngster of three boys,
Okay.
so this is quite an interesting thing about growing up in an immigrant household. Uh, all my friends at school had their parents' music collection, like the Beatles or the Beach Boys or I don't know, Sydney Devine, whatever it was. My house, it was Sikh devotional songs and Bollywood soundtracks, which are lovely, but David Spears in Primary One isn't listening to that. I want to listen to what they're listening to. So
Yeah.
my eldest brother, his best pal at school, used to listen to heavy metal because that's what his dad listened to. So by osmosis, we live in a sort of heavy metal household, Sikh family, right? But the kids are listening to Deep Purple and Rush and things.
That's brilliant.
So I had this kind of like real affection for 80s rock, 70s rock more than 80s rock actually. I still listen to Deep Purple on a daily basis and Led Zeppelin and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I worked on a thing called Bombay Blush, and this is going back to about 2001, 2002. And it was a really cool Channel 4 series about interesting stories from India. And one of the stories was about the heavy metal scene in Bombay. Who knew, right? So
Right.
you
Okay.
and you had this guy, I can't remember his name, he used to call himself Monster or something, right? He had long hair, talked like this. Yeah, I've been drinking since I was 4 years old, yeah, you know. And I would love to play him.
That's
I would love
amazing.
an Indian heavy metal star. So if
That would be
anyone's watching,
fantastic.
that I'd love to do that just for the shits and giggles, you know. I
That's
did really,
fantastic.
I did a cool job recently. A show called The Chief, Jack Doherty. So
Okay.
his character in Scott Squad, here's the very self-important the chief. That goes, yeah. See, so Jack Doherty, who's by the way, is a genius. I mean, you won't know the show absolutely that Jack was involved in, but Jack basically has been a writer and performer of comedy, like top level comedy for like over 30 years. So he had a spin-off called The Chief, and I'm lucky in Scotland. Sometimes I'm just offered parts. I've been in the game long enough and have a certain profile. So they offered me the part of the Justice Minister.
Okay.
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to just channel Hamza Yusuf and Anna Sarwar. Because the thing is, they both went to Hutchie in Glasgow, and they had that kind of thing where it's just a wee bit Asian, right? So
Yeah.
it's like a younger version of Navid in that way. And I asked them to put a detail in, which is he's always got Indian sweets on his desk because he's either been to a wedding or he's going to a wedding or he has something to celebrate. There's a whole thing in Indian culture where if something cool happens, you give out sweets. So in every scene, I says, well, help yourself to a burfi. My nephew just passed his HGV license. Or help yourself to a laddu. My nephew's just had his seventh child. And it's a nice little cultural thing that I could chuck into the mix. And also do, I mean, that's the other thing about Navid. I was blessed. That Glasgow Asian, I call it Glasgow Asian accent, I never
That's
really
amazing.
done on screen. So I
Yeah.
could really, like, dinner Doherty's quality, junky bastard, right? I could do that in my sleep. So to get a chance to do a slightly younger version of it, more earnest, we have to get our ducks in a row, and that's fun. Because, like, I know
Quite a
Hamza.
deep accent, isn't it? It's like they're quite, it's they're very excited, but you're right. It's that kind of.
Because if
I
you
love
hear,
it.
I mean, do you remember when Anna Sarwar had that big to do with Malcolm Offord?
Yep.
Right? And I don't know if you saw this, right? They were on Question Time together in Aberdeen, right? And it came up again. Well, Malcolm offered. Oh, my glasses are gone. That was an unintentional comedy there. You like that? So yes, Jeff, I didn't mean that. So Malcolm Offord brought it up again. He says, "Well, all I can say to you is, and you may misremember this, Anna, but you came up to me. We'd done a television show. You came up to me afterwards in the green room, and you suggested that perhaps that we could join forces to keep the SNP out of Scotland." And then Anna said, "Can I just be clear?" This thing all. Can I just be clear? I want Reform to get hammered. I want them to get gobbed at the next election. And he went pure Pollockshield Street, and I was howling. It was so fun. But just to hear that kind of that Glaswegian thing, because I went to Langside College and I met those guys, right?
Yeah.
We were a wee bit VG, but a wee bit Asian. And it tells its own story, I think. So that was another kind of authenticity, which was lovely to kind of channel.
I didn't even know that was. See, now when I think about it, I went to uni with a couple of guys that I feel like kind of odd when I'm saying it, but Asian, but incredibly posh, like so polite, so just like pure Scottish accent. But like what you're saying, there are just these tiny little twangs that came out. I personally loved that. I thought it was like, again, we started this conversation talking about authenticity, being able to be comfortable around it, to have that kind of authenticity. Born and bred in Scotland, but obviously the household that you grow up in, the accent that you're surrounded by all the time is the accent that you're going to come out with. That's absolutely paramount. I grew up with parents that come from Dundee, so my accent changed. I mean, the first language I spoke was Gaelic until I was like 4, so I didn't speak English till I was 4. But I end up having quite a broad Paisley accent, and I actually come from Cooper, so it's like just down even a wee bit even further even from that. So it's tough.
But you're not getting into the Doric by that point, are you? Not
Oh
yet.
God, no. I can't. Saying that though, I used to work up in Forres. I worked there for quite a while, and it was just on the cusp of being able for myself to go, I'm now kind of struggling to understand this a little bit myself, because obviously I'm not used to hearing it all the time. But when somebody comes to you and says, like fit, and I'm like, I'm sorry, pal, I've got no clue. Like I'm sorry. But like that, we were talking about the authenticity thing. It's
So
for me.
what's that thing you can see in the shoe shop? Fit,
Fits, or something like that, and it's like,
yeah. Which foot
fits which foot. It's nuts.
Brian Cox pointed out.
What's that?
Brian Cox pointed out that thing in Dundee. You can say which is I eat everything. Or
what's the one that's I'm looking for a hang's way. Coat hanger.
A Wallace pie and ning no. You know that one?
No.
A Wallace pie and an onion one as well.
An onion one.
A Wallace pie and a ning no.
But try and explain that to somebody else, they're just never going to get it. But it's
to be celebrated. That's the point.
What's that?
It's to be celebrated and not hidden.
Absolutely. And I love, like you're saying, that's on a national stage, and politics obviously is supposed to be the thing that's, I don't want to say highbrow, because I don't want to say, because it's not anymore, and I'm not saying that accents aren't, but you traditionally always hear very staunch, very political accents in terms of politics, and for me to hear something like that just makes me, like, I love it when you hear like Stephen Flynn talking in a proper, like his own vernacular. Like I love hearing that. I loved Mary Black so much.
I was just about to say, I think she's been the best orator in the House of Commons for years, and it shows. It just goes to show that you can be passionate and articulate and clever and ethereal with an accent.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of Limmy. He's the same.
Yep.
Limmy's comedy is globally, universally brilliant. He happens to have a broad Glasgow accent. I'm here for it. Absolutely here for it.
Totally there with it. I love it personally. I feel like every podcast conversation I have ends up coming back to Scottish voices, and I will stand my ground to say I don't hear enough of them, and it's something that I just want to hear.
So I'm a big fan of Six Music.
Okay.
Because I'm that guy, I'm 55 and I'm a male. I'm not a graphic designer or a teacher, but and not one Scottish accent now in Six Music. Radio 2, not one Scottish accent. Used to be Ken Bruce, he's away. I don't even listen to Radio 1 anymore. Radio 4, people used to complain about the number of Scottish accents on there, and I don't even know. So I used to write and perform a show called Fags, Mags, and Bags
I was
on
thinking,
Radio 4, and people were complaining about the accents on there because
mm-hmm.
there's too many, I can't understand what they're saying. Well, you can go fuck yourself. Uh, um, so yeah, we're just not it's not represented, and I'm hearing more and more from Scottish actors that are based in London that casting agents, not all of them, but are can be incredibly just dismissive
Yeah.
of Scottish voices, like they don't count, like they're
Mm-hmm.
not part of the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
which is depressing because I would have thought,
Could be
really,
more accepting.
that really still the case. Uh, I've been very very blessed to be part of like two shows I did last year were Department Q and I Swear,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought were brilliant pieces of work generally, not from me, I just mean generally. But also with Department Q, it was actually based on a series of Danish novels
Oh right, okay,
that,
was it?
that Scott Frank, the writer director, who by the way is from San Francisco,
Okay.
he had the rights to the books. So I'm
Okay.
I'm I'm, I'm summarizing wildly now. So sorry, a lot of facts coming your way.
Go for it.
So he had the rights to this series of books
Mm-hmm.
called The Keeper of Small Causes, I think, by UC Adler Olsen. So, like I say, 9 or 10 books. He had the
Mm-hmm.
rights. Found himself in Edinburgh, fell in love with Edinburgh, fell in love with Scotland, fell in love with Scottish humour and accents, and says we're going to set it in Leith. So
Amazing.
that's why it's set in Leith. And he's cast all these brilliant Scottish actors, people like uh, Jamie Sivers and Mark Bonner and Kelly MacDonald and so many others who, because I'm old, I'm forgetting. But just a wonderful kind of
Mm-hmm.
Kate Dickey. Sorry, that's what I was trying to say. Who's wonderful. I'm in it, and it's just lovely, lovely company to be in.
It was
So
fantastic.
he said to us, he's asked us to improvise stuff, and he says, "By the way, I love how you speak. So speak like that." And he's from San Francisco. Now, I don't think I'm being too chippy to say that I've spoken to London people that don't give Scottish voices that level of
Mm-hmm.
respect. And do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I Swear, it felt like a really, I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
I've seen both of them, yeah.
I've never laughed and cried. I cried at the trailer. I mean, that's how good that film is.
Mm-hmm.
How impactful and emotionally, just like the emotional weight of the film. I say this all the time. It's like you can go and see a film and you can be entertained, it can be diverting, whatever. But I can't remember the last time a film affected me so much. I
Mm-hmm.
keep bouncing at the cinema because of how it celebrated humanity and how we can help each other and be there for each other. But even if you take all that stuff out of it, like the subject matter, Tourette's and humanity, just the way that Scotland was portrayed, it felt like Gregory's Girl. It felt real. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I was lucky enough to be involved in both of those things, and more of that, just more of that.
Yeah.
We need our Dairy Girls.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I say this all the time. I mean, I love Dairy Girls. I loved it so much. And again, I loved it also because of the association with like Chelsea Clinton getting involved at the end with it, and
Yes.
the whole thing. I totally love it because it put my two things that I love together. Where's our version of that? Like, whereas, I mean,
It's not
yeah,
like
like you said,
it's not like we don't have the storytellers to tell those stories.
because
You
we
know?
do. We have that happened. You could take anything that happened in Dairy Girls and put it right into any high school in Glasgow and Johnston and Paisley and Aberdeen. You could stick it anywhere, and it would definitely have the same thing. Not just girls, boys. It could even be, I work in the marketing work that I do. I work in the engineering sector, so like oil and gas and engineering and stuff. And
Mhm.
when I like talk to apprentices to do like the sort of world of work type thing, and I sit there and I go, do you know, this could be a show half the time. You're sitting talking to these guys first day on the job. You've got the guys coming in, you've got the guys that are kind of leveling out of apprentices, and you laugh and it's funny because we're just all human,
Mhm.
and we're just humans with Scottish accents. It doesn't make us any different, but it makes us in a way.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely. So with that, obviously, I'm going to kind of try and wrap it up. But with your whole story, I think, and again, like I didn't think this conversation was going to go the way it was, and I'm so happy that it has because I think this has just been fantastic. You've been the guy that's been on our screens forever, and that's obviously a hard thing to break into, as we're saying, for so many different reasons. If you could give one piece of advice to anyone that's not, don't do it, because the amount of times I do that, people go, don't do it, and I'm like, oh, come on. But if you could give one piece of advice to anyone that's trying to either break out into stage and screen, or trying to become,
You're
doesn't even
frozen.
need to be a comic or whatever. Oh, bugger.
My advice would be don't freeze. You're back. You're a little bit
I'm
fuzzy, but
back.
you're back. Yeah, you're back.
I'm back.
Trying to reconnect. Oh, have you frozen? No, no, you're still there. But yeah, no,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I guess if I had one piece of advice, so like I say, I'm 55. So when I was in my mid 20s, and I sort of fell into broadcasting and all the rest of it, but at that time, you were always answerable to gatekeepers. You were auditioning for producers. It was difficult. What I didn't have was the internet. What I didn't have was YouTube. What I didn't have was TikTok. So there's a generation now that can quite quickly find their voice and just broadcast that voice. And I see stuff all the time on my TikTok feed, which makes me genuinely laugh. There's some genuine talent out there, genuine storytellers that are talking in their own voice. So my advice would be was embrace the technology, embrace iPhones, embrace TikTok, and have the confidence to think that if you think it's funny, then it's funny. It's a one-tick system. And Molly, I still am guilty of not trusting my own judgment. I do a lot of writing with Donnie McCleary, who's a comedy genius. We write Bags, Bags and Bags together. We worked on loads of projects together. And if I don't have Donnie's second tick, I sometimes don't believe that it's funny just because I thought it was funny. Now that might be, I have low self-esteem, weirdly, given the profession that's chosen me, not the other way around. But you just need to develop the confidence in your ability, because what that will do then is it will mean that you'll find your own voice. When I think of how I've developed my voice, it's come from a lot of influences. I was a big fan of Eric Morecambe, Victoria Wood, Armando Iannucci, Christopher Morris, Stephen Fry, and Hugh Laurie. And maybe after a year or two of writing out the influences, it almost like all formed a new thing that was me. And that's sometimes part of the process, where you have to almost write that stuff out. But you will find your own voice. That's the thing, though, is trying to identify what that is and being true to it, and having the confidence to think that that's enough. And then you're flying.
That's it.
Because it's like what we talked about. If you're authentic, people know. It's like I just talked about this character in The Chief, the Justice Minister with all the Indian sweets. Now, you might not know that that's a thing, but when you watch it, you're like, well, that's funny because it feels real. So try and just be true to yourself and what you find funny, what entertains you. Believe in the one-tick system, have confidence in your voice, and then run with it and have
I
fun.
love that. That's. I suppose you could say that for everything in life. Just
No, I
stay true
know.
to yourself.
And I don't say it flippantly because it's
Yeah,
not easy.
because
You
it's hard. Yeah.
you can't just say to someone, be confident in who you are. It's not, it's a process, it's a journey. I've just said the word journey, so I should probably kill myself. But just try and have that in the background, that if it made you laugh, then it's funny. If it made you cry, then it was dramatic. And try and lean into that.
Fantastic. And the last question I've got before we wrap up, and then I'll get you to obviously say where everybody can find you online, not in person, I should say. But see where is, if you could sum up your, I'm not going to say journey, your whole experience in one word, what do you think it would be?
Jammy.
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 I'll take that one.
Yeah.
All right, Sanjeev, this is just brilliant. I'll keep you on for a wee bit just so we can tie it up. But tell people what's coming up for you and where they can find you, as I said, online.
Okay. You can find me in the yogurt aisle. Most major supermarkets. Love yogurt.
And the Jeff Goldblum
Oh,
impersonator.
yeah, of course. Back down. No, she doesn't want to speak to you. You've done fine.
Not interested in you, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Fantastic. So I'm on Instagram, Terminator Sanj, I think it is. I was on Twitter, but that's a bin fire now. Instagram's probably the best. I'm on Threads. I'm trying to build up my presence on Threads because Blue Sky. Actually,
Blue
Blue
Sky.
Sky, what Twitter used to be. it's still a fun playground where people are nice to each other. I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Insta. Um, uh, in terms of work, so we've been filming season 2 of, and I'm going to say season, I don't care, of Department Q. So that's been happening
Okay.
this summer. That's still ongoing. I'm not sure when that'll be out. Probably this time next year. I'm guessing, but
Okay.
that'll be a thing. Yeah, a couple of projects that I'm trying to develop. Some projects with a producer. Um, that it's very, very kind of embryonic at the minute. But the idea is that because of the way the industry is in Scotland, voices are getting ignored. I know from my experience of trying to get projects commissioned that even with and I don't want this to be like, I don't want to put to dishearten anyone, but I have a certain profile in Scotland, and even I kind of get stuff off because of the way it's structured, because of the gatekeepers. So I'm in cahoots with a producer, and we're working on a couple of projects. It would be pointless to tell you what they are now. When I have enough to tell you, I will tell you. But it's very heartening because it's a couple of things that are quite close to my heart,
Okay.
and I would be front and center in terms of writing and possibly performing them. So if
Right.
either one of them come off, I'll be kicking the height. Um, and I'm not trying to do that thing of wait to hear this. It's not. I'm not trying to false. It's not the empty nightclub syndrome. I'm not doing that. So if either of them come off, I'll be very happy. What else has been happening? I can't even think. There's probably other stuff. Oh, I did a Midsummer Murders. They are.
Fantastic.
Midsummer
That
Murders
is
last
so
year.
cool.
Not been out yet. So
Amazing.
how's that?
Fantastic. Well,
Uh,
this is going out in 2 days' time. So when's it coming out then?
that thing about Midsummer Murders, this is true, right? I was chatting to the two lead characters, lovely guys. I said, "Any idea when this will be out?" He says, "No, because it's so successful that ITV don't even really schedule it. So what they'll do is they'll have it on the shelf, and if say BBC have got a new David Tennant vehicle, then they'll rush it out.
Shut up.
I mean, just shove it out, because they know they'll get the viewers anyway. And apparently, it's massive in like France and Germany and Japan. They're knocking on the door. Can you get some more? Can we get some more? Can we get some more?
That's
So
crazy.
I'm in one episode. Yes, I'm a suspect, and I don't even know when it'll be out. So look out for that.
Fantastic. Definitely. Well, Sandy, thank you so much. This has just been a hoot. Thank you, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
As I said, I'll leave everything down below if people want to find you. And yeah, that's it. That was another incredible episode of the WYND Pod. Stay tuned for the next one. See you later. Thank you.
Thank you.